Hey, good day. My name is Wes, and today I'm going to show you how to prepare a brisket for a good long smoke. Um, so I've been asked to prepare this brisket for a resiliency training, and what I wanted to do is tie in a little bit of resilience into the preparation for making sure that people are able to have a good fine meal. So when it comes to resilience, uh, the lesson isn't just learned in the field. For some of you airmen and even civil service folks that are out there working in tandem, but it can also be learned on the smoker. So a brisket's one of the toughest cuts of meat that you can buy. If you try to rush it, force it, or cut corners, it won't turn out right. It'll be pretty tough and not as enjoyable. But with some patience, preparation, and steady attention, the same tough cut of meat can be transformed into something tender and worth sharing. Resiliency in life is sometimes the same way. Challenges can feel tough, even unyielding, but with some discipline, some patience, and the willingness to stay the course, we can find some strength on the other side. Just like the brisket doesn't become great in 1 hour or 2 or 5, neither do we. Growth takes time, endurance takes practice, and resilience is built in the long, steady smoke. So we're going to cover a little bit of that today, and our good chaplain is going to tie that into his ultimate lesson of resiliency. So we hope you enjoy the lesson and the food that you'll be partaking in, and let's get started. So right here what we have is a full pack of brisket. So what I like to do is I like to separate the point from the flat. The point is the thicker end of the brisket here, and the flat is the more slim piece. In order to do that properly, we have to be able to cut back some of this fat layer that we have here on the outside. And so sometimes what you can do, what I like to do, is just get it started by peeling it back as much as I can with my hands, so I can find a seam. Oftentimes we use a boning knife. I've got what I call is the bubble blade. It's a nice knife that I use for trimming up briskets and even fish fillets and whatnot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this down as close to the meat as I can, and then once I've pulled this back, you'll be able to see a thin fat layer that will help us to determine where to cut the point from the flat. The reason that we're actually going to do this in separating the two pieces is so that both of them can actually cook at an even temperature. So both of them need to get to the same temp, but they're not going to get to the same temperature at the same time. So the best way to do that is to separate them, and then when they get to that internal temperature that you're looking for, then you'll pull one piece and you'll keep the other one on until it's prepared and ready. So if you pull it all at one time, then you're going to have varying different temperatures in the meat. Brisket's one of the toughest cuts of meat, and so making sure that we're able to get that fat rendered and the proteins in the beef to break down, we have to cook it, and I like to cook it low and slow, so that those have time to break down properly, and it should make for a nice, easy, moist brisket. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and start trimming. Always try to trim away from your body. Some people ask, do you throw away the fat? And I like to hold on to it, because sometimes I'll actually use the fat cap to keep the brisket moist. So I've got a Weber Smoky Mountain smoker that you'll see later on in the video, that I'll put the brisket on the lower level, and I'll put some of the fat on the top, and as it renders down, it'll drip on top of the brisket, and it'll keep it from drying out. So I'm basically trimming this down. Don't want to get into the muscle if I can avoid it at all. Obviously, pulling away the fat as I cut, it keeps your hand out of the way of the knife, first of all, but it also allows that gravity to help you. So notice this big fat layer that I have in here. We're going to trim this down. We're going to get deeper into that so we can kind of find out where the fat layer is on the inside, and that's when we'll find out where the point and the fat separate. So it takes a little bit of patience. This is the top side of the brisket. The way I look at it is the top side of the brisket. It doesn't have as much fat on it. The bottom side has a big fat cap on the back. I trimmed some of it just because too much fat is not necessarily going to be eaten, but I leave some on there so that fat cap actually protects the brisket from burning. Now on a smoker, it's not likely you're going to get any flame burns, but it can dry out, and the fat actually helps with making sure that it stays nice and tender. All right, as I get in here, I am just trying to get down to that muscle. You'll start to see this is the location of where the fat is. So what I'll do is I'll end up coming out here and I'll trim inside, and basically what will happen is it'll go down all the way down, and actually you'll see when I actually do it. So here we go. Saving these pieces. Some's going to go on top of the smoker top rack to drip down. Part of it is also going to be used to render down to make some good tallow. And the tallow can be used just to keep moisture in the meat after you slice it. It can also be used, believe it or not, to make candles. Just going to trim a little bit of this off so we can find our line. And here we go. We have a clear cut line right here that we're going to start with. So what we're going to do is we're going to get in here. We're going to get an edge started. We're going to cut down until we actually get down to that fat layer. There we go. I found it. So I'm going to pull back on this, and ultimately I want to kind of stay within the fat realm here. I'll do some small broad strokes and continue to peel this back. Go. Now, what do you use brisket for? Some people don't know much about brisket. It depends on where you grew up. I grew up in Texas, where brisket was like part of every celebration. You can make good. You could basically make fajitas out of it if you wanted to. You can make really great burn ends with a point. So there's lots of good uses for it. But when it's properly cooked, I don't know anybody that hasn't really enjoyed it. So almost done with the trim. We're going to keep trimming it until we get thin enough to where we can actually just cut it across. Almost there. All right, we're so thin right here. So now I've found where our cut point can be. So now we're just gonna trim it right across. Almost there. Need to sharpen my knife is what I need to do. You can probably get about a good 10 cuts on this before I have to resharpen. And so we got a new project for the winter. Anyhow, here we go. Almost there. There we are. So we've got the point separate, okay? And then we've got the flat. And here's the flat. What we want to do now is trim it to where it's basically level. So you see how this is thinner and this is thicker on the back? Well, if you look back here, there's a big fat cap on the back. We're going to trim that down so that it sits nice and flush. Give me one moment and we'll be right back.